Hey everyone, welcome to this video. This is an assisted stretch bodywork session. So you get to see what it's like to enjoy a bodywork session. And if you're a massage therapist or someone who's interested in doing bodywork, this might give you a little bit of insight on what it's like to stretch somebody, especially doing resistance stretching. So I use a lot of resistance stretch technique, which is very effective in reducing scar tissue, opening range of motion, and strengthening and lengthening the muscles. So first things first, I'm working with a client of mine. His name's Fish. We've been working together for about 2 years now. And twice a week, I work with his shoulder. He has a partial shoulder replacement. And he's also lost about 100 pounds in the last few months. So we've been working together to shape his body and also create deeper flexibility. So right now I'm just palpating his muscles. What that is just feeling around, seeing where the tension is in his lower body, seeing where I get to go to help him open up. Very relaxing for the person on the table. It feels like a massage. And really what I'm doing is scoping out what we have to work with. So Fish has a turnout. So what I'm going to do is work towards bringing his legs back into alignment, so getting them a little straighter. And how we do that is we're going to break down dense fascia around the lateral side of his thigh. So he's pushing his knee into me as I'm pushing him back into where he should be aligned. So this is a hip exercise and stretch. I do a combination of passive PNF and resistance stretching as well as some deep tissue work. So you'll see a little bit of that throughout the session. This was about a 45-minute session that I've sped up a little bit, so it's about 34 minutes. Now he's resisting by squeezing his heel in towards his groin as I'm pulling him out. This opens the adductors, opens the inner thigh, the groin, opens behind the knee. So only attempt to assist somebody in a stretch if you know what you're doing, if you know what to feel for. So this video is not meant to teach you how to do it if you've never done it before. It's only to show you some new techniques and to see what it's like. With the resistance stretching, we can go pretty far, as long as the person on the table is resisting as I'm pulling. As a practitioner, it's really important to watch your body positioning as well, your body mechanics. And if you notice, I use my entire body to stretch out my client. stretching out the TFL, opening up the hip flexor. This feels really, really amazing. By pushing into the hip flexor, we can isolate the leg, stretching the TFL IT band. And as I am certified in Lomi Lomi massage, which works up and down the whole body, making sure to connect the bottom half and the top half, my stretch technique moves from left to right very often to increase alignment in the body and a flow that feels natural. Oftentimes, while one part of the body is being stretched, another part of the body is experiencing acupressure or some deep tissue massage, allowing the other side of the body to open up even deeper. Another really great TFL IT band opener. To increase resistance, he's pushing his foot against my hip as I'm pushing him more into a banana stretch. So allowing the IT band to open up even further. And in a banana stretch, the body arches, or curves rather. And so he's pulling on his left wrist to open up the whole left side body. This is a golden stretch. In the stretching, I like to combine some of the more deeper resistance stretches with some just loose rotation to open up the joints. I want to make sure the body's nice and loose before we do any resistance work so that we don't pull anything. So we're doing something similar on the opposite side, pushing out and pushing in. As a practitioner, it's important to know how to feel for when the appendages are in alignment or when the spine's in alignment and when it's not. So checking always to make sure the hips are square, the shoulders are square before moving the client. On these hamstring stretches, it's important for the person on the table to make sure their hips are pressed all the way down to get the max benefit of the stretch. Oftentimes we overcompensate without realizing it. Again, creating that flow and that ease. This time also using the person on the table, using their own body to stretch deeper. an incredible hip stretch. And I'm coming down around because his hip just wanted to pop. In fact, he popped a lot during the session. There's a lot of cracks and pops. So it was good. We were opening up the body and creating more of an alignment to where he was before. Lots of adjustments. Getting that TFL on the other side, opening the hip. This is so great for the hip flexors. Some people may experience pinching in this stretch, so it's important to ask how they're feeling and adjust the stretch if necessary. Communication is key in resistance stretches, so knowing how to communicate what the client should do, how they need to squeeze and push is just as important as the actual task, because the task cannot be completed unless the positioning is correct and the resistance is just right. Notice again how I use my whole body and the table to manipulate the tissues and to move them where I want them to go. So if somebody is really, really tight, you can use resistance stretching to gradually open them up. So his adductors are really tight here, right? So he resists by squeezing the knee in, and then we're gently pushing out until it becomes loose enough to open up and stretch. This is the same stretch the other side that we did for the IT band or the moon or banana pose. So now he's going to grab onto his right wrist. Remember, he has lack of range of motion, so he won't be able to pull as deeply as possible for most people. And this is going to open up the whole right side of the body. And he's doing amazing. That shoulder was not nearly as high when we began. Okay, so here's a little checkpoint. Now that we've opened up the groin a lot and the hips a lot, we're going to put it to the test. So we open up the legs and he squeezes in to resist, and this is a gentle opening up. Again, he's resisting the stretch and opening up. Oftentimes I have to use my entire body to move his legs apart, but because he's not resisting as hard, I can just use my hands. As a practitioner, you have to be really careful that you're not muscling through these resistance stretches. And you're utilizing the whole body as a tool. now we're connecting the upper half of the body and the lower half. So we're starting to work into the back. Now that his hips are loosey-goosey, we can start to loosen up the shoulders and get into the upper part of the body. So he's shrugging his shoulder up and then relaxing down as I'm pulling him into a deeper stretch. This is amazing if you have tight traps. And with my right hand, I'm doing some myofascial work. His deltoids were a bit tight, so I'm having him open up the delts by lifting up the elbow and I'm pulling it back down. Opening up the shoulder joint here and finishing off with a hip flexor opener release. Sliding into a spinal twist. This is, I want to say, my favorite stretch. Stretches out the whole spine and the chest opener. It's so amazing. Having him resist with the arm opens the chest even deeper. Alright, now we get to do the other side. Isn't that great? We have two sides. It's a blessing and a curse, I think, sometimes. But it is a challenge sometimes to find balance on both sides. Oftentimes, well, for the most part, all of our bodies are imbalanced to some degree. So learning to find balance in our bodies definitely connects to how we find balance in our lives, emotionally, psychologically. Everything is connected holistically. So when you get assisted stretched, you will discover ways in which your body might be misaligned, but that you were unaware of. And then with consistent practice and consistent body work, things start to open up in your life. And I know this from experiences of my own and testimonials from clients. Things just start to open up when the body opens up. Opportunities, deeper relationships, emotional healing, all kinds of things. Our bodies are truly beautiful. Opening up the delt on the right side and the chest. Hip flexor. So if he resists his knee against my hand, then I can pull even deeper, you see. I wouldn't want to just pull his leg back without any resistance, because we could potentially tear a hip flexor or something like that. So you always want to have a little bit of resistance. So now that we got the upper part and the lower part of the body connected, we're going to work a little bit more into the arms and the shoulders. So right now he's pulling in kind of like a bicep curl with a weight, and I'm pulling him back as he's pulling in. So there's resistance there. This opens up the elbows and the biceps and the shoulders, allowing me to loosen up in the shoulder joint and move on to deeper stretches, like getting into the tricep, the lats, and the serratus anterior. It's kind of hard to see as I didn't have the best camera angle for this, but you'll see it on this other side as well. Right now I'm just pressing down on the lat to open up the posterior side of the arm. Open up the backs of the shoulders. He's pressing his elbow and wrist into my hands as we're drawing it back down towards the hips. So this is extending that shoulder, extending the backs of the arms for optimal flexibility and strength. And loosening up at the joint, we start working the hands. He works a lot with his hands, so he always has tight fingers and hands. It's nice to touch on those areas of the body that aren't usually massaged or stretched, the wrists and the fingers. And we can work resistance. Now for the other side, you'll be able to see some of the arm stretches a little better this time. Just palpating up first the chest, the pecs, and isolating that shoulder. So a lot of times our shoulders can get so squeezed in with the pecs and the traps from just being stressed out or sitting in a position for a long time. So what we want to do is just kind of break that connective tissue in the area, just break it down to loosen everything up. So we're starting with the resistance stretch to open up the biceps and the shoulder. Moving the body around just to notice where there's blocks, where it gets stiff or tight. And sometimes the angles will be different according to how the fascia has shifted in the body. And essentially we want to work right through the dense tissues to create openness, freedom. Usually with the person on the table coming to sit up to wake up a little bit and seeing how the body sits, seeing if the spine is straighter, the shoulders are a little bit lower. But before we do all that, we're just going to do one last hamstring stretch. So this is a really nice one where the client rounds their spine, relaxes the neck completely, and then reaches for that straight leg. And then I'm able to help him get further by pulling on the arm and the top of the back. tissue and a little bit of deep tissue. Break down any last things in the neck. By things, I mean just knots or accumulation of dense fascia. It's just easier to say things and stuff. So this is a great resistance stretch for the neck, whereby the ear presses down against my hand as I'm pulling the hand to the right or the left in this case. Creating a space for me to use my olecranon or the tip of the elbow to gently break down any dense knots in the traps and the neck area. Kind of looks like I'm hurting him here, but I'm not actually, because he's resisting me the whole time. So his neck is pushing up into my hand and I'm pushing down. So if you were to feel it, it would be an equal exchange of pressure where he's pushing and I'm pushing. And we sort of take turns while we're pushing both at the same time. Taking turns meaning that he allows me to win on the way down and I allow him to win on the way up. And I hesitate from using the term win or lose, because there's no win or lose here. It's really just an equal exchange of pressure and energy. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. If you came all the way this way, well, congratulations. You must be really interested in this work or receiving. And I acknowledge you for having such an interest in the body. I definitely have always had an interest in the body and how it works. It's so fascinating, and there's so many things that we can do to create more freedom in the body and in our lives. So if you're interested in this, definitely leave a comment below, and I'll definitely make more videos if this is interesting to you. Or otherwise, check out my other how-to stretch videos and tutorials. Take care.